Live from the atrium of Maison Radio-Canada in Montreal, 4 federal leaders will debate for your vote. The leaders are here and ready to go. Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, Yves-François Blanchet, and Jagmeet Singh. They will debate the major challenges facing our country, from tariffs to the cost of living, public safety, energy, and leading in a crisis. Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Paikin, your moderator for tonight's debate. Each leader has agreed to the following. No notes. Answer the question.
And also going que JBG manda mazinatesingh the nungwa the bagan and nungwa.
This is the 2025 federal
Iwe
debate.
Nishtana ashi nishtana shananen bebon nungwa.
Well, welcome, leaders. Good to be with you here tonight in Montreal.
Kabindege Oma Montreal.
Is tariffs and threats to Canada, and we will begin with a
Netam de Chisha.
You will each have a minute to answer, and then we'll go
Magdwe o Gaanada Kiing.
goes to Mr. Carney. Okay, what is the starting point for negotiations, Mr. Carney, with the United States?
I went in Vaja Amanda Gichi Mukman Kiing.
Well, first, Steve,
Kishita Weda
also thank fellow leaders
Amigwech Akina Ginowaabmdan and Amunkwe at the Bagans.
Because I think the relationship
Kikadauge
with the United States relationship
Nawiji a Gichi Mukman Kiing
steady and increasing integration has fundamentally
and
changed.
Igani Emigrashe
Restructure the trading system. So the
Oshki Mishkota or the one.
it has to show that we have control of our own economic destiny, has to have a clear plan
Minonendum and one Oma Canada Kiing and done.
to our trading partners with like-minded
Babakanda
and also has to have a position of strength in terms
the way
of
Gamakons.
to the U.S. unjustified tariffs. And that's why we have put in place counter tariffs that
Na Kappa Kagego
and minimum
Mishko Danton
Mr. Poilievre, would you do anything different?
Aman P.
Well, first of all,
Mr.
thank you, Steve.
Poliet,
Thank you to our
Amigwech Steve,
contestants here today.
Migwech Akinawea,
What would I do different? Well, I'll start by what I
Awenen
think we
Babakan,
counter the American tariffs with our own to deter
Anigan, Amon P, and Mishko the Doe,
independence.
Oma Canada.
Differently. Well,
Awenen Babakan,
the Liberal government has weakened our
Bakwanan,
anti-energy laws, red tape, and high taxes.
Gagego, Wasa, Gan, Osheshigan, Ogamagawan,
Incapable of
Mazinatesingh.
overseas. That weakness threatens
Zhiwe Kichigaming, the way
red tape and
na apte
projects so that we
Mishkatako.
goods to market and bring home the jobs so we stand
Omanda Gabindige Nokia Oma Canada.
Mr. Singh, you get the next question. Can we trust the
Mr. Singh Kikadose
Arctic sovereignty
Gagwegon
policy?
I think we've seen
Ojamaganeshi Omaja Estigation
tuning in, and thanks for the question.
Mino Nakshik Agakino Kinoe.
I grew up in a border town.
Ginowaabmdan Mitgiche Mukmana Kiing Anawiji Nigiwiji
People traveled back and
Achi
We're in the automotive capital of Canada, and we knew how important it was
Odabanan Omna Ishpaming Anigani Oma Canada
seeing what
Ashiji Ginowaabmdan
unprovoked way
Donald Trump
any justification really felt like a betrayal.
Gawinge Goda
Now we're right to say, well, we don't really trust
Canadians Kikada
point, and we can't really have a lot.
Donald Trump Iwe
So our Arctic sovereignty and our security, we need to make decisions that are
Apachiki Wedanong Amanda Kiing
so dependent
sovereignty
on the U.S. And that's what I would advocate for, making sure we are
Gagego Kichimukman Kiing Wijigwe Nijiwe Gawagan
Would you want to see for
Awenen
industries affected by tariffs, many, of course, of which are in Quebec?
Bamiton
First, be all welcome in Quebec and Montreal. You have me because I try
Ga Mabijan et Quebec or Wede Montreal.
that Mr. Trump poses on Quebec economy and
Mr. Trump et my God
acknowledge the fact that the economy of Quebec is built differently. The challenge
Mishkadoi Akanokian
for Quebec to have
Quebec
its own voice in the negotiation is important.
et
The difference between
Gikadon et Quebec Mowen.
but also in terms of identity and language and values and who we
And
are.
then them Nako Mowen Niwen
And if this difference is being respected by whoever becomes
Babekan
we will be reliable
Gichi Omokman
to achieve the best
Gichi
possible negotiation and
Ogema Wanan
economies as partners.
Merci, Monsieur Blanc.
Awijiwi Amanpi Mamashkeda Awijiwagan.
And then we go from there.
Netamajiton, Mr. Carney.
Dollar-for-dollar tariffs, even if they ultimately threaten
Kiing
Canadian jobs and businesses.
Bamiton Gaanada Anokian
Dollar tariffs. We have to recognize
Beijik Aji Beijik Wabik Nedapakanagego Mashkanawodon.
is to have maximum impact in the United States, as I said a moment ago, minimum impact here. So we have to think about the impact.
Maji with the Bongi Manpi.
The way we've designed those auto tariffs,
Awudabanan a Gamig at the way.
they maintain production. If they
Ji Aton Odaban Amanda Oma Canada.
automakers, I mean automakers that have jobs and plants and production in Canada, then
Get your Odabanan.
they ship to the United States.
Jit Aton Omanda Anoki
Have carved out the Canadian auto parts sector.
Megwe
I know you're pressed.
Canada.
The Canadian auto parts sector, so that it can remain competitive.
Miinwaa Odaban Anoki
Maximizing the harmony.
Canada Anoki
Where we need to.
Polyev, who went in, then Mr. Singh.
with the Jean with the Oma.
Claim that
Mr. Kearney.
country to respond with strength, but after
Kikido Igipisa
half of which time you've been Justin Trudeau's economic advisor.
Ni Mr. Kearney ni Echo ni Shring a Justin Trudeau Gichi Ogema
Border. You supported blocking pipelines in Canada.
Kibamiton a Mokade Gane Big Bemid Anoki Oma Canada Anungwa
The liberal
Ajeton Bill Nigadas Sinswe
our resources overseas
Nigadas Midas Naswe Mukito
to give the Americans
Anige and Minonendum
projects.
Nequendum
Seeing how much these liberal
Ki Ginowaabmdan
our country over the last decade.
and the seeing Bongi Ojonia Oma Canada.
So let's go.
Hey, yeah.
My record is a month long as Prime Minister.
Ambe
To the heart of coming to the Americans with strength. But
Ni de Jade
within the first week as Prime Minister, I sat down with all the premiers.
is she Canada Ni Abi Amanda Hawaii Wiji Wagayan Ana Ogema Wanan Akena
have one Canadian economy instead of 13. First point. Second,
Wabanong Hipinger Schmaka King
free trade in Canada by Canada Day. Thirdly, the federal government.
Canada de na tam shurtashe Amishko Kodanon
Thirdly, one
Abeka de Kivisa
relying on provincial. Yes, it is possible, and it is possible.
Ni
It is
Kanabach is deja
It is agreed on under the impact assessment framework.
Nigada midna je Rong so
Looking forward to them with the other provinces. We will move.
Apene Nigan Dejan Nigan
Having a strategic response to
Goyak Manpi Majida Gichi Mukmana King
in that just the threats alone of the tariffs have meant Canadians have lost their jobs. The threats of the tariffs
Nadap Kanage go Mashquede Gdon
is that we've lost jobs in steel, aluminum, and the auto.
Gawin Egego Nukian
As you mentioned,
Mr. Kearney at the Buan the banana gun
the first thing you did,
Gigwabnana
you traveled, you made a tax cut for millionaires, which was reversed.
Na Apta Tikishka Nigon millionaires Gigo Gigon
That's what workers get on EI. Right now, workers
Imintaka Kitsa EI.
wondering, what am I going to do if I lose my job? Workers who've lost their
I
job.
went in Gawin Anokian I went there am nishmenik omada endaya manda awakagan.
Entire salary just to pay the bills, to pay their mortgage, to
Akena
pay their rent, and to put food on the table.
Aronia
It's not good enough, and it shows
at the way
they make it a priority.
omanda the wakagan.
That are impacted by these tariffs, that are threatened because their jobs are lost.
We have not heard from Monsieur Blanchard.
Gawin gojo on jeb Gawin Ronia Anokian.
Another one in English. You said in British Columbia in February that you would
Winesh Gikada British Columbia.
pipelines through Quebec either
Bimid she miinwaa bimide
powers in order to do so.
powa bimide.
Montreal, you said that you would never do that
Deja nij girgok
of using emergency
awenen
powers if you do have the agreement of Quebec.
anish stotekia ogemawan
In front of Mr. Trump.
Gichi bawak when anigan
Policy. Don't you
Beijik wabik ashi a Beijik wabik
counter tariffs have to be targeted. You have
get the wabama tiki
for
mitwab
industry, car industry, and
Ontario odabanan ash anokian mishkodayan
one finger no detail.
Let's get from Mr. Polyev and then
should nishtik ishpaming and ninji.
To answer the question.
Mr. Carney Gagego Kikida Makade Gane Baker Bimedana Manda King.
Let me tell you what that
Anige
right now. The
when
Americans
there's
get
Kikapa
97% of our oil, 100% of our natural gas exports at big discounts. We have to
Jang Midna She
from Western Canada through the
Nijas
back
so
because we don't have a pipeline. And now there's
on J Gawing Makade Gane Big Mibende Amanda Alberta Kiposi.
biggest energy and resource companies.
Madaso She Neo Gichi
And I asked Mr. Carney
Gajonia
keep in place
at the way
pipeline law that effectively empowers Donald Trump to have a total monopoly on our
Donald Trump Kikro
export. Why would you not repeal?
at the way Meshkado
Isn't it because
the Napka Canal Gego Amanda Canada
as Justin Trudeau and the
Nasab Justin Trudeau
your cabinet?
let's get a response.
Well,
no
let me pick up a couple
can we
points.
couldn't
The first thing I did as Prime Minister
Natam
was to cut the carbon
get Nina get you Ogema or King Canada
commitment that all proceeds
ni Ashton
and those companies most affected.
Nigani no
I may,
Nokian Nokizit
if I may regress, I'm trying to do it quickly because several points raised.
ni we with done
Fees go to workers, and
Akena with the
third thing is
Akena Nokian Tanoki
energy infrastructure
ni
built. That means
ni
pipelines,
nendam the
capture and storage. That means electricity grids. And here's how
Apoa waso wasagan wasagananan
cooperation agreements with
Natam Agiizis
the Federation. You need to cooperate with Quebec. You need to cooperate with the provinces,
Nindo Wenanda
nations, and indigenous people.
Awiji Quebec Anishinaabemowin Anishinaabemowin King
Window that we put in
Ginowaabmdan the
as well as, if necessary,
mazinaatesingh
powers to fulfill the federal responsibility, but not the unique.
Mr. Polyev, you want to come back on that?
emergency kida
Mr. Carney's respect
Nishka
is a total contradiction. The no
Gawin Gigawata
69 guarantees there will not
Negada Midna She Rong So Mazinaatesingh Nasab the Sab Miinwaa Gawin the Oshteke Jan Mazinaatesingh
Let's just let him finish his sentence.
that is not true.
Becca Kikado
We should have
Mr. Singh
enforced once. We shouldn't have
Bashkano
that takes now 17 years to get a major project
and then Tartaja Anigani Medaso She Jongswe
the worst
Bebona
growth in the
and
entire
Gina Ege Bebon Ajonia Abangaya
we need a change and the
Liberal
for change will include
Wakian
repealing the anti-pipeline law so we can get our energy to
Gawin this with a Makade Gane Big Bemede Manda King and no Miinwaa
The Liberals bought a pipeline. They built a pipeline. I don't know what Pierre is.
Liberal Ki the way Makade Gane Big Bemede Manda King
Use our powers efficiently.
Awabanong
Project that
iping schmuck wasaganan amanda agojing Ginowaabmdan
jurisdictions in provinces across this beautiful land and have low-cost energy for businesses.
Gami ati ashi a Kiing Gaanada oneshen a Kiing.
First, the pipeline
Natam.
built, yes, TMX built. That's why oil exports.
Jaton
Secondly,
makade gana big bemid kana.
Great interconnection.
Hey, Gewe Mr. Singh.
Huge opportunities for the country. We have to be able to do more than one thing. Third point, fundamental point. We can
Kishab natam nasing
never take away. If we have one Canadian economy, not 13, and if we need
a basic Canadian anokian
Ontario and Nova
Ostagejan a mazinaatesingh
this is within our grasp.
Monsieur Blanchet,
natam dagti a mission.
negotiations with the United States.
I want to be back to something
Nin
that Mr. Carney said.
ni kita a miinwaa
You can't fill people's mind with nonsense.
gawin kada kikada gagego anenendam
Institution, and you cannot, through a federal decision, even through
gawin
decision,
oma te weja akenomage akameg age mishkoto ekeo agdawdwe kamak
No, I know.
mia
But this is
gawin
This is the point. This is, if I may, this is the point. The federal government
kishpen te neda nidra
abide by the decision of the Quebec
wede ekde bezendao
cooperative federalism. That's what we need to
au
do.
na wiji Gichi ogama win
This is what we need to do.
Gichi, and then Mr. Polyev.
yeah,
wish te wede o wede
those pipelines will take at least
ojeton makade gana big bemid amanda ki
will
Mr. Trump
be years old, not president no more, and
ni gan
less terrible will be there before you can
get there Trump Monday
oil through this pipeline of yours.
We're less than a minute to go. Mr. Polyev, I promised you next.
majitugo Gichi makade gana big mede ami aki midwa
and killing jobs. We actually
miinwaa ni shia makade gana big mede anoki ante
pipelines law. It will create a true one-stop shop
a ton a basic a beka
and approved LNG liquefaction export plants,
LNG majan
nuclear plants, and also hydroelectric
Gichi gana wasagana
power we need to be strong
what they wish Gichi was tanan
for change.
nani buen ni ozetanan
Threats to Canada, how to negotiate. We need these
kikida na dap na kengego mishkadak na kadon
economy. We need to act.
ajeton
That will give us
basic Canada
Tonight, I got to be the
mashkadon
making sure
awishi
it comes to time. And I'm keeping an eye
I can the beganek agakana the beganek
first section and our first debate.
a kishita mi asawe natam
our goal is to double the pace of housing construction.
au shi ni shing ni saing a bit pico
Powerful bring it home tax cut on work, investment, energy, and home building.
Gichi beneda after the
Leaders, same idea. One
Kajonia.
questions followed by open debate.
I'm in no way aga
Many provinces
kenomaga way wanan
with conservative governments have ambitious
Megwe.
targets, none of which have been met.
wa kai gon Ginowaabmdan a Kajonia Monday and then net majiton kikadon
It was only 10 years ago. You could buy
shina eshemedaso bibonak
but in the last lost liberal decade, how
nagakashan non midna
any country in the G7.
ozok
So now our youth cannot afford a home, and our
gawin oshki ayan dawe oshki wakaigan
and our conservative
onje
will one
conservative
federal sales tax on new homes.
Anji Bapekatan the after a
To bring houses
tax.
down in cost by $100,000.
Nisa in a na after
Train up 350,000 young trades workers
azo.
to build those homes.
Nisa ke et osokok.
Also on the
Amnokti amishtaramada Anji. Mr. Singh Nisa in a mi jam ge gamik gote. Amino gego gashta. Amino iske a bokade. Gawin a gajonia at the way me jamagam on the gamik nishkada and then moe and then
Other countries have taken concrete steps.
where they a king of France
France has done it, Greece has done it.
Natama me jamamanda
Brought down the cost of food significantly.
France amanda nisaing
You can also ban corporate landlords from buying up the affordable.
going at the way amanda a king dasing a Canada.
But it requires having the courage
Aminona amanda a Canada.
corporations that are ripping you off, that are price gouging you. And we know that price gouging
Moshkoma
is
de
a major
then
reason why food prices are going up. You're never going to hear Pierre Poilievre or
Gawin Perry Poliat Gira Gawin Gilja
Mr. Blanchet, I want to ask you about
Gisha Damiu
which will soon cost this country
Geka
annually. We understand you would like to expand it. How would you pay for that?
You would want it to be just for everybody because
Kinagoguya, Wixketto,
65
Kekai, Witexketto,
10% less income.
Manage also, Negaso conduct, Kekai,
The best way to do it is to have
Object to show any wish king.
in terms of tax, which means
Kinagovic wheel to the baguette and our sapco. Kaigot the basic.
in order not to pay in or
Anen, Kai to the baguette, kindness is no.
billions of dollars in taxes
Kai Chen even now.
the situation of elders. These
I would take Monte Quick and Omdana, we not mowing on the cake kike.
apply to
We take skittot, Nagino, we matzel.
be answered on that.
Up to even a shit them good nom. Keganom Chigendo, Keganom Chigate Babadik.
Budget of elders and
Abdik Kondakanam. It's on good old resort. Kekike.
Mr. Blanchet, that's time for this one. Mr. Carney, I want to ask you about housing, which over the past decade has gone
She came
to a crisis while the Liberals were in power.
Sasha, Misashin, Ekundas of Bonago, come one is snugget. Snugget of what is come on and go snugget.
I entered this contest because of the housing
Me Pin and going to manage Gamanda.
crisis to help
We not sit on under.
the housing.
It's just not seeing Mandanam. We woman, we get not got a we take skittot now be matsagic. Abde cook we have a time and then we woman shit doing. Cartridge gang, Econisian, Kimi Garden, Cartridge gang can wear any chin even a shit doing in London.
I agree as well on reducing the tax on first time.
Can you go and do what done?
But I am focused on increasing the supply.
Nam sure getting Ginowaabmdan. Ocean, even a wee woman. Touch got to go. Cation, sing. Kiing gave on P. We not causing.
We're scaling
Commit to Nanak.
to double.
Because Moscow Konanik. Kiing causing, we not causing Gagine Yamming P. Canada.
Many of you have pledged to cut the GST on many aspects of buying a home.
Could even a gig to wine Magam Manto, we should make Mandanam, GST is Nakatik.
The only one on this stage that fought to give people a GST holiday. Interestingly, while the
Nin with the Pane Magat Mamanda, we should have a commando. Non dash with the Bagay got one day in Kijik, Mino Yachigajuk.
they opposed the idea
Conductino Negastona.
that American would rather
Kainagin on Masian and then we not more.
it's not surprising.
Conduct get stosage, me gave Ushme, Kenage Womenishinik. Conduction Raschik, me on the Raschik, Ushme.
Folks that earn more than $1 million is a good idea.
Anish conduct Ushme, even a Ronia.
Afford their bills for their
Even a Ronia, young get into not motor. conductor sen gastek non taske stochek Anishinaabemowin Trinidad Modobo conduct.
$1.4 million. That's somehow a good idea.
Okay, you went after
That's your numbers.
You went after Mr. Polyev first, so I'm going to give him the first shot to respond. If you
Well,
No, probably.
the reality is that housing costs doubled under the Liberal government.
Nishingo gimbongte engen teknandur wigoman. Maba Justin Trudeau gatotung. Mishgo egi na sapejo wan magin. Kakido geo tamgage mawe. Ki wan mage non daske gwinang dek. Nishing das gimbongte gego. Chip kan kakidat mabagas wan maget maba.
Before the election, the Liberals voted
Watch gonna go pesos kong.
and they have continued to build
Gigasto na menoyanam. Chimmega take a bushe with the Bogega Sotunduk GST.
will be, again, to axe the sales tax on new homes,
Ninashkenina
municipalities to speed up permits,
Gatona Goshe GST.
train up 350,000
Non dash the stunning den on the Nuishachigatic, Minos Nibina Takinomagasok, Eskenichik, one and Kijik, wash it Tochikan and Ruigoman, Nakin, not a Batinak.
and afford up your life for a change.
Mr. Carney, they're coming
Two tricks to Jexkit Todd Nagon the Pematsachik Wigoman, what are the Gino?
Mr. Polyev, you spent years running against Justin Trudeau.
Up to Gogamata Gis Nagata take Mabage Kagimat, Justin Winakmat. Nango Shigani can't get in a go down.
I'm a very different person from Justin Trudeau.
Can't get in down. I just in Dovsy.
And so how to drive results in the housing market?
Ningeni Washington Ginowaabmdan, have the Queanstone.
Financing for housing developers.
Have the Oshme Sonia Quiton, London we woman wish ketung wishetung.
Cutting development
Meno,
in half.
we take sketto,
Building of those homes by 20%.
non dash. We don't take London wish it got a wee woman. Me have the show, walk on them.
20%. This is how you drive affordability.
Nishtana,
How you bring young people back.
Chingutok, have the Queen Monche.
You claim to be very different from Mr. Trudeau.
Chipkan,
To show that
Chipkan Dishgabo, Moshe Trudeau.
you have a lot of
Ushmenagon Donesho, Pishuigo, and just get a ticket.
Last time we had somebody saying
Can I get one kick and get a ticket?
and they killed the law that protected supply management because they knew better than us.
Couldn't
They were elected by
Kai
exactly like
Kan the Schwebert, Coton Tolan and then knocking again on Gaki Digwitoi.
I heard of nothing. As far as
Winesh, or such again.
we're against
Quick, Kitan Geko.
you are a great negotiator. What have you negotiated?
Upchugan Nagacheton get a kit.
Paradises in Bermudas or Cayman Islands?
Kashigo can't Kenagego,
Anyway,
Shanaxino, Shinomushnang,
in those
Gestoin.
if you want people to believe you.
Mr. Singh, you want
Chishin with what dog will be Matsachik, Shinomushnang.
We need to build homes that people can afford.
Goshi, Upchuganigan and Dawit, which is got ignorant we come and with exketot be Matsachik.
And during that time, guess how
Stephen Harper gay.
many built 6 homes in that entire time.
We got them good off, Sigi should thought we go man.
200,000. This has been confirmed again and again. You were
200,000.
6 homes. That's it. Now the problem.
We got them good off, Sigi should thought to get up.
The problem is that when he was
Mabashi
investments,
can go knockling in the stone.
strategic decision to buy up affordable homes in cities like Toronto,
Chin even a weekish not thought under we go man.
purposely bought those homes, kicked out the tenants.
Chin even a
That is not something
Chin even a geese out driven on. Contact we go man got on get you go to Toronto. Minagas altogether. We take skit those go giction mung down on London.
The Toronto Star debunked your false
it was 6 homes, and
I
that's the
appreciate
fact.
neither Liberals or
To Toronto Stargate,
but in that year,
Cop, Conagate, get okay.
the year I
Mr.
was
Singh? Let's let him answer.
in the year I was
high enough, though.
the year I was minister, we had 200,000
We
homes.
big pon,
Average price of a home was at the time 450.
we big
And one
new auction on midnight.
for $900, and
That's all. Kiing then on Whippy.
have actually doubled under the Liberals.
They doubled
And now we
Nang godash. Liberals say Koya, Nishin go gimbong then on then.
some spending promises that will ultimately
What done even on
build bureaucracy. We don't need more.
We got a wine mug out.
We tried that.
Kaigi Swepsino, Nishin go to go gimbong there.
Build homes loans in communities. And that means
Nungo, Abdik, Nendwendawk.
way so that builders
We go man, we should go take the Matsich again that art.
housing we need a change, and you, sir, are not a change.
Abdik, Quenstone, Akele, or other sketches here.
Is that it's an
Was she got them?
that absolutely ignores affordable housing.
Kiing gino eshigenom the make manda. Ketexketo, Keshiketo, the Matsich, me tagenom the make.
Singh is absolutely right. The six are the relevant.
200,000.
The 200,000
Good or Segashi Toto Tebogo.
Canadians. There are many Canadians of different.
What that commission compare in Ching, Minosh, non, Shimnikes, Tojik, the Matsich.
A misunderstanding or
Kind just doesn't now.
of how the government's balance sheet can catalyze enormous
Mitche, Sastana, Manda,
to do to solve the
Manda Enakanigang, Keshin Shingaba. Tumchit Sastana, Atashmanda, when one does he now, is Chigang. Mem de come up Trump and the Kito to Chumquanking.
So I won't ask a question, I will make a statement.
Need some we got in the Kinton on it on Mano, we need Unka Ketego.
Just have no proof so far.
I can take it as here. Chickskito son, was it gain? Kishan
All the power.
Kai with the kin,
You cannot
I with the kin. Nigan Gabusi, to shit again, Buckinagego. Abdeko
serious people. You cannot
Abdeko gain all going to be much again in MOP Quebec. Keton we among.
voice to protect itself.
Mishkosi Megan in MOP Quebec, Abdeko gain in a Quibsando Mega Gokijan.
Happens even if minor
Niskan go kidding, Chishin get wash every
will be a partner with the different Quebec
Keen.
and identity which you have been
Keen Washiga Wincher, Washigan Youngin and MOP Quebec.
respectful for the identity.
Let me get
Kai Quim not in Missy MOP.
What's the first thing you would do to make life more affordable for Canadians?
I shaggy get a chimba. Tambo get a chimba.
Fundamentally, I'm the only person on stage that not only fought for real relief for people in terms of affordability,
Nin with the Panebe me got Mamma the Widex thought by Matsachik.
medication coverage,
Minoge Skike, Widex thought. Mino web talking only with Excat.
I fought for child
Minoge no Kekaik. Minoge Benuchi, quick sketch was what we can enter was what when.
So if you want someone that's going to fight for you in Ottawa,
We know Sky no one to me got Mota, Cashin and Singabangego.
Carney doesn't have a
Kaimanta Winchek, Kenagego.
So vote for Democrats,
To make a Makatong woman to watching Cashin and Sing.
follow the Conservative.
Abdeko Quibson to me getting a Ekatong.
That's not going to care.
Washing the Sing, we expect to win the Shiat by Matsachik.
The number one expense for families today is taxes, more
Me,
than they spend
me go Nani gonna go
10 years of
and got what by Matsach at the Bomot. Mandam Nick and Megatic. We gish not what. Quilan.
plans for change.
Mijam, can we go wash not take, which may go to be on Gennom, taxes in a Kadik, with a Bagego.
For the average worker and seniors saving a working
Lashin on and Gesha,
$1,000, rewarding hard work again. Because hard
think
work
childcare
is
costs?
actually being
Dental care.
punished
Quantakana get an end Kijik.
because of the very high tax
Me going to end Gagashik.
10 years ago.
Mondation, Mondam Nixoniashi and Megadik.
9 out of 10 Canadians. We need a change in this country.
Up to go.
Your hard
Abdeko Kenna, Quanstone on Picana de Sherbock.
paycheck that buys you affordable food, or affordable home.
We take get to another Matsachik, do we go on water.
Cut their dental care, which is thousands of dollars. Cut their child care,
Oder Kennaskino, oder Guntagego. Kishana, Keno, Dungocha.
you're going to cut
Kindness, no.
what cost them 10
But then go up a Matsachik.
That's why you cannot afford Conservatives, and you certainly can't trust the Liberals.
Mark Carney's turn.
Me got to go on the Gochip Kangi women of the Kennaski Kangi Shana, got us Nishis no manda.
child care in this country, $3,000 to
Mon people no
$10,000
chink,
a year for a family, depending on where
no chink. We can end Scasot.
depending on where you live.
Sock,
800.
Sunda sock, Minogum das
We've expanded
socks, shoss,
Canadian.
shoss sock. Had to go. We've talked in and we want.
Fundamental issues for affordability. We're talking about affordability and taking them
아브데코
in order
위기놈체가 되기는든 위tek스케토 번압에 맞춰 지금은다 도엔다가 돈난단 윈너시아도고요 미노스나 윈농군장
Premier of Quebec,
윈농군장 군덕 퀘벡
Minister of Foreign Affairs
게이군 아브데코 위기놈체는
from Quebec. Quebec and Quebec issues, whether it's
Why
supply
haven't you answered
management,
Mr.
language,
Legault's letter? He asked 5 things in the letter. He expectations.
We're talking about
And you did not even answer him. And tonight,
가고 와치고 그나고 했지 가고 와치고 나면 그 왜내게 저치겠지 앞쪽에 그 사과 퀘벡에도
Mr. Singh, sorry, he has the floor.
The question you have to ask is, after a decade,
아브데코 이거대 건덕 레벨로 사세 내게서 와인 마가 키스톤도 위기스나 도인 미점 키스톤 아는 위고만 위기스나 도이 아시는 거에는 근데 웬 위마증 위나시양 미고 건덕 레벨로 보내 와인 마가 오스메스 왔다네스 나갔 마보건 저스틴 가베는 키치콘 오스메가 딱 걔네게 오기스네스 나갔 피스위고 가서 와인 마가 또 있었지가 아니 저스게 있는 거 마보 Wanna subscribe system, you gonna support it to get this wine market. Cost you now what do I give in this? No good.
biggest risk we have to affordability. The biggest risk we have.
Tomgo manches no good num.
So first and foremost, we've got to get
Maba egg ma with the chimukman king. Up to go snug so.
that brings
How they quiz it together.
that means preserving
We mamuising.
childcare, reinforcing health
When we should again kill one on the num. Skik with the skit on the noting we can answer.
over and again.
I like
The
if
clock
we're
is on
any
zero.
better
How
than we are. Is there one thing Canadians can do that Quebecers cannot do? You are
Goden gay no
jurisdiction
Canadian skit Quebec skit top.
to copy what we did with our own money.
Miguel to quick and awesome, member Pian Lucky on Quebec, me punish chicken. Kai Keen.
I wanted to be polite and let everybody finish their points,
And
but
far
we
beyond.
got
Naha, Migo em neck Migo Gichok saying Manda neck. What an ungetonic.
up next, public safety
Me Manda condition, Higi doing Manda condition get a watch got
fight crime, to protect Canadians, and to build communities that are safe, secure.
Keep crime, drugs, stolen cars, and other illegal substances out of our country.
We're going to invest in our borders, and that means hard.
Mina go what a watch got a canam. As a man has to be taken a gay gumpy, and Jim Skick. As a known this saying, can I get we can enter got a winner. As come snugget. We must see it. The match won't be candidate knocking. I was it going Manda when we should going.
public safety and security for a lot of
We aren't keen mot na be matchik when we here.
you could contribute to ending that crisis in this country.
Anishke chicken bomanda chips keke we me got man.
Which is a bit less important.
Up chugos nagat manda kete mo.
I think the old border
Chip kan ge oten BC she but
immigration
mon
is
p
very important.
otek chum kwan king
Immigration has to be dealt with
mi je
in fashion. Our
pesik kam wak man de kete gene.
in orderly fashion. The rules are not
Kai she nam
rules are unclear. Some rules even invite people to hide for 2 weeks illegally before
kai nam
something that's
when I want to chige syok she and chit coming. Come we got en on dan chips keke.
may take as much as 4 years without us reducing
New pon.
deal with them in an
We meant to talk. We not sit out ge go.
for every citizen in Quebec.
Osmen is nugget.
The fact that we are receiving
Kaimunda Kistosina.
people in Quebec from this specific type of immigration, then we can afford
Misha
them French.
Chinibina Guchip College Basso will be not also come pick Quebec next get exketos young we have now.
The liberal gun buyback
Mr. Carney Ashkegi.
not considered a success by many people.
Nyapnandan Varsegan and Wigishnatoy.
Why would it work this time?
Yeah, I think, well, what we've seen
Anishkin go get in the same well.
is some success at the commercial level, but not at the individual level.
Kinishim got to go bungishes.
In my opinion, it hasn't been organized properly, and it needs
Kai when you give me a goddess no. Nandan Nyap Varsegan
national
Wigishnat got igniop.
public safety in order to do that. And
Nangota Shabdek, we should gain Mandabdek. Abdek can't quick nom dano. When one show a bookmanda. Bego, Wibamanagot.
Guns coming over borders, which is why we've tightened our
Up Chegosnaga to Chung Quantin Basic Colon and Don Bash Second.
continually coming up with new forms of assault rifles.
Up Chesco.
Killing machines.
Up Chegas come underneath on Dr. Bash Second.
Every single
Anego
there has been a vote in the
Knocking again Kito Naga and the Biget Negates no.
has voted
Keabugo shop pedeno.
crime unless you're tough on guns.
Come on, Damado Imigat Ming, Essen China, Dok Chishman, Ponchega with Tadding and Barsigan, we boy Yachga de Gab.
Overrepresented in our correction system? Are you concerned that your tough on crime platform
Menoge on the Nationabek, Ushme, when the Nivnagabako Gasok, Peace we go, Bemaxechek. Up Chego on the Snugsu, we must Negachgasok on the Nationabek. What goes to Saskatchewan, Pinchikasok.
After 60 prior convictions.
Stahan even good and good.
10 years of liberal laws that allow
That's the point.
offenders to be released dozens and
Not
dozens
again when the liberal here now. Me go on the Ashibit and dog on the
liberal term of soft on crime policies. We need a change. And
Abdek Quanstone Amando, some point position on the Migo Shibit and dog on the Bemen target check.
crimes to go to jail for at least 10 years, maybe for life, no chance
Abdek on that's the bone going out with Amichas. Watch topic nega Caesar Javichitan. We in a Satgego, Abdek on the way we can Omchigade.
Thank you, Mr. Polyev. That's time. Mr. Singh, your question is about the RCMP, because you've got RCMP reform in your platform. What, in your view, is the problem with the RCMP?
Well, some of the basis for this is the concern that's been raised in more rural communities and northern communities that there have been
Mr. Singh Kaki Gitashiko will the Shendan
when it comes to
RCMP and in Michigan at Cable.
make sure that we've got a top-tier police force that provides security and safety.
Chigechidaawong one and Kamasane again, Gichi Napiot.
I also think what's very important
I'm begging my
is
Asian
an
Kiot.
area of deep concern. I think everyone in our country should be safe. Should be able to be safe at home.
Pigo Anish Chinagachi Doc Quek and Shinabexkoniganingayawat. I'm begging. I've been on Chichinagachi, me my RCMP, Masane again, Doc.
Before it happens,
Midashi, Udashidanoye, Kega, Mashi Chikiotavia, Chinagachi, Doc, and Yek.
border officers in one day
A Pushka, my Rasho gang with the
border safe. That stops
Chasho gang with the Quakai. Minochu Tapit Chai, Masina.
Which we go to right now. And Mr. Polyev, you get the first word on this one, and it sort of dovetails on the last answer you gave, which is, you have pledged to be the first prime minister in this country to use the notwithstanding clause, setting aside charter rights of, as you call them, multiple murderers. Why do you think that's necessary?
To be clear, I want to uphold the charter rights of Canadians under Section 7
Me, Udashan Charter of Rights Kashinikatik,
and security of the person. Right now,
I beg
right,
Avia Chiminoyat, a quick Chishigakan
discounts. The case in question was a gentleman who went into a mosque and shot dead 6 innocent
With the
workers,
Pakistan in my Beshakin and Negi shot this animal mosque,
meaning he could be out in his
Kajibashkisant, and Beavis and Kaki Mamashi Chicket,
murder that
Nistran Shran and Noke, at the Kimina,
the constitutional powers
Munich Chickabegas in it.
to ensure that mass murderers stay in maximum security penitentiary for life.
Mishikas Shugwe Kamash Chikiot,
Will also pass
Apichu, I quick Chinagachin talk, and beg here, Kinesh Chickabegas what.
under the 3 strikes
Kispin is singing Wash Chicken,
out of jail. I know
Kanchikisagaman,
that you are drug
Kakiputega.
perfectly and that you've learned an employable skill and you've
I'm beg here, quick Chicken, and go yet, be much Saga.
to go on terrorizing our communities.
Ani quick Chisha.
Real plan
Kegachika what the Kiawat, Pakana Yoma.
safety and the security that
A
Canadians
big head, quick chish bantis yacht, Kegachiko touch yacht and go Bagayawat.
I think that the one of the core responsibilities of the federal government, Prime Minister, is to defend the fundamental rights and liberties of
Mi udashinani Prime Minister ye quick chichichigatas ayak wapskiek. Mi charter rights utabachituno.
literally today. I think it's a very
Michigan nungo be udashidan nungo mesani mi shigaki ushigate
judgments of the Supreme Court of Canada.
ambege chikashkituat
The Charter of Rights
Ginowaabmdan ye mi ye charter of rights kashinikatamuat. Quick chichiganawabmdan ani bakachani sek.
politicians who may use
Ambe goe ko gemak
override
chabachituat ugituinio.
in using by the federal government.
Ambe mi matashiyechin shuai mina hang magap mukaiga kabematasiwong.
Is it a slippery slope if you use it in this case?
I must say, I would be quite interested too, because Mr. Carney said that he didn't want us to use the notwithstanding clause before.
Mr. Cardi like ugita shani sanya
And yesterday he said
chiposhituat inya
it was wrong to use
law is nikatamuat.
notwithstanding clause after a law is adopted. So if we cannot use it before,
Mitashiu tashindaniega anin ke sebahak anjituatia.
but it is very important.
Ambe hega we kachabatake
Made it clear. The Constitution said
mi udashindania Ford Kistish Dikatan.
never how or what
Ambe
we
the key
do with it, because it's the prerogative
Kaidashi the quick ujichike siyoki and utochima uminashi no yega kituat.
of the judgment of the same Supreme Court, because you don't like it.
Ambe hega chuna shway ugabachituno ye. Ambe gaino kain quick ugisha binishasionia.
Let's not let Mr. Polyev get away with making this ludicrous claim that anyone on this stage
Michigawe Mr. Singh kito.
a less severe penalty. Obviously, that is not a special position that he's taking. Everyone agrees that
Mi kito ye kain quick ye.
judges are equipped
Utashidania ye kai.
Polyev's rhetoric confuse people. Obviously, everyone agrees that it's
Utashidan mi ye keka ye. We bagasa kang.
sentence that's put in place by a judge. But what I'm concerned about
Mitashie odinan ye. Awe kani gani tang ye. Kauna shwa sotawya.
the severe penalties put in place. But we also
Mitashie unakotan ye. Kine shavye.
much of the violence,
Chikebaygasnat wentat nungum chisakang oya.
handguns and firearms,
Aben yak binash mash chikiat.
Polyev's admitted that as well.
Mishikuta shitan ye.
Guns and illegal weapons that are used in violent
Pashkasikan gabi chikat degen ama pakanoncha.
illegal weapons getting into our country in the
Ambe gai kainanish.
by having strong
Quick ubidi gati suno inyan pashkasikan ama gaya.
Yeah, when he was in power in the Conservatives, they cut the number of border officers. They reduced the number, weakening our borders.
Ke Polyev apiga nigan abit.
The issue of whether in using the notwithstanding clause under these circumstances would be a kind of a slippery slope and encourage politicians to use it more.
No, we will use it to protect the charter rights of law-abiding Canadians. I'm interested in
Mi no dashandanya Charter of Rights ye. Me macha pediment wagari ne shibiga te makakie. Ambe ogwe kamashi chikeat. Nani sahnat.
mass murderers stay behind bars for
Be me do ganita kiat.
turning them loose on our streets.
Nani sahnat ye ga she madisiot.
The chaos that is unfolding in communities. In Toronto, right now,
Abduction mo sanagat.
police have been forced to tell people,
Utapiden inyo kiwi do.
let the thief steal
Kain
the
o
phones, and they
una
break into the house.
ubagita na no yen. Chukibuti le tutabanan.
People are living in terror in many of our communities precisely
Monsieur avia gaya tutabanit.
C-75, which requires judges
We can't know yani ne semagatnik.
at the earliest opportunity under the least onerous conditions. Every single member of your Liberal
Skemi ye ga tashitang we avia ga mashi chiget. Musam kain koi kai kai ginesh ke baiga siyok. Am bege went and no ye una shwo idag.
deserve to live in peace and security.
Am be
Is the right that I'm fighting for.
chibe matis yot ma ye quick chi dabiot ke ga e wuch gutam wat.
specifically about two things that have been raised. The first is with respect to these issues of car theft, home invasion.
Mige we no dashendani avia ga binti go ga asat. Am bege tapne
you increase the criminal penalties for that happening. In terms of bail, so that it has to that's why we're committing to an extra 1,000 Canada Border Service agents, an extra 1,000 RCMPs. The RCMP we're adding surveillance with respect to car theft. To get results, you need to focus at both ends of the chains in federal.
Thank you very much. I want to talk about one of the issues that has come up is the idea of
Mr. Singh
overdose crisis. Services keep our communities safe. Having access to those good services. Both Mr. Of moms that have lost their children to this opioid overdose crisis. They've literally save lives. That's my commitment.
Things as rapidly as possible. First, we believe that we should act on crime gangs and organizations, defining them from the violence of those gangs.
We know, yeah, apii
by those gangs and not sold, being, you purchase a thing and selling. And we most by those gangs becoming this is the real fear of power. Sad memory. Officially, they said that they had not considered Quebec difference. They had not considered Quebec language. They wanted Canada to be country by the end of the century. Mr. Barton told me himself that he had about the Quebec difference in that his collaborators is now a close consider to Mr. Carney, which seems to be part of so
Mr. Carney is
people coming to Canada. It is impossible for Quebec to receive all those people.
The
Language and value, which is very important. So, properly, let's receive migrants in an orderly fashion and successfully as a measure of respect for them also.
Mr. Poliev, you wanted a word.
I speak to families all the time who are terrified by the scourge of drugs.
Try to
ban hunting rifles. They're really going out
that
are used in crime. The police actually endorsed me. The police in Barrie, in St. Marie have all endorsed me because they know criminals with 2,000 extra that will stop the guns
After you
from
cut
coming
them,
in.
now you want to hire
But
them.
unlike the Liberals and NDP, I will not ban hunting rifles. The Liberals want to
We never
protect
want to.
Me kitat kani win gai do ga yo tapina sino ngwe ka yo seot.
Carney, quick intervention, Mr. Carney, and then I got a question for each of you before this segment's out.
Okay. We absolutely fully support hunting and rights of hunters and indigenous Canadians. But I want to raise an issue which
Me da shio da shindania Anishinaabemowin ka yo seot.
in Montreal.
An be here an gwe quick ka ba chitwat in pashkasigaran.
Fear going to their community center. Fear
Gut
taking
anin ta sha yo.
and
Ugotan ochi shot de synagogue ka ish bete wetamot.
proposal is to make it a criminal offense to threaten
Me da shi kutawe
anyone from being near or going
chigal sine join tawia.
worship their school, their
Kispeni shati tino ga kega mai shi bin on dagoset. Me da shi ekitwat ye
what we should be doing as Canadians, of course. But we
bakan go te chi ai. Kega chapaget na at bi de get. Ni ba wi segese.
Each of you before this segment's out on what you perceive to be the biggest security threat to Canada right now. 10 seconds each. Mr. Poilievre.
the physical security threat to our country is the rampant crime wave that is running out of control.
Mrs. Poilievre shi kitat ye.
The last decade, we've
Akinavio uda shwendan ye.
gun crime. We need to
that's
lock
10
up the
seconds.
criminals.
I tapsko pashkasigaran ma bi jigade.
security section, I think we didn't have a chance to talk about anything internationally. I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China.
Kangi don chi se men chigaron chigahi gitu tabang wekeda.
Illegal guns and drugs coming across the border.
Mr. Singh keda me ye Kevin da shendan ayo maga bi ashgato de chibok manaki.
Quebec or Canada is able to protect itself, in that we are still dependent and entirely dependent on American to protect us.
Okay, that is the end of that section. Gentlemen, up next, energy and climate.
Proving, getting things built, unleashing production.
We are unlocking major infrastructure projects, including in conventional energy, oil and gas.
We're spending thousands of dollars a year for each family to pay for the damages of.
You can absolutely build important projects like an east-west energy grid.
Energy and climate change. I know how much all of you love talking about pipelines, so here we go. Mr. Singh, to you first. Should Canada build new pipelines to get our oil and gas to market?
Well, it's not an approach I favor with public money. There's not any.
Mr. Singh keda
There's not a specific project to look at. I favor, when it comes to the environment, building an east-west energy grid that connects low-cost energy.
uda shendan ye ay gash ne kadek wasigaran.
Put this all in context. We're talking about what our energy solutions are in the context of a climate crisis.
Anin chi kiskatong ye chinaga chatong.
We're living it right now.
Shemak nungom chiga gwe kendamang anin chi tashi damang yanin chi gwe chigade ke.
Because of the forest fires in BC, it meant that it was unsafe for kids to go outdoors. Fast forward to when I became a parent, just a couple years after that, and I literally worry about the same thing. The forest fires we saw.
Ni ba yo uchani men damang gwe abinon chek misiga tabinwat.
Days where there was such.
Abe wa kedamwat ye.
We see extreme weather, forest fires, heat domes, floods impacting us. We've got to do everything.
Where does fighting climate change land on your list of priorities when it comes to expanding energy opportunities in this country?
It lands within our priorities of bringing home jobs while bringing down emissions around the world. Look,
climate change
it actually makes the problem worse, but that's the Liberal approach.
Kinebik
Development law of C6 LNG export plants over the last 10 years. We have seen more of those jobs go abroad. I want to bring them home. My plan, liquefaction and export. If we sent India, for
Canada.
Emissions by 2.5 billion tons, which is 3 times the total emissions of Canada. That's the way down and jobs up. It's common sense, and now it's time to bring it home.
Thank you, Mr. Polyev. The next question is for Mr. Carney. How would your government fast-track pipelines and mining projects while also following the Supreme Court decision that requires consent of Indigenous communities?
Well, I think the first thing, and this goes back a bit to where we started, which is recognizing that we are in a crisis. We need to act with maximum force, and having. Those investments that are really going to move the dial in terms of jobs, energy security, well-being consistent with long-term competitiveness, which necessarily means lower carbon. And so part of that process is it also includes their ability to participate. I know I can tell, like, you've got to tell on when I've gone on too long, so I'll finish up. Which is, that's why we're doubling, our proposal is to double the Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program to $10 billion. What is
You still oppose pipeline construction in Quebec, even though a majority of Quebecers now apparently say they support it.
We will know about that when we have held the debate about that, which has not begun. Energy, trade, north or north to south, and it's true in Quebec also. In a little more than 3 years, Donald Trump won't be in office, and there will be not one. Donald Trump once we get there.
Gewe Naagaanzijig Gewe Naagaanzijig iping mashmuk wabanong ashton Amanda wede a Quebec Anokian
Provide us with nothing.
We now move
Gawin Manda Mashkamo.
Have had a chance to get the first shot at this. Mr. Blanchet, it is your turn to get the first shot.
Mr. Blanchet kikada and the Tom kikada.
Which are in high demand.
Canada
Of allowing these minerals.
Bekon Mashkama ma Quebec Gizi Manda Anoki Oma Kiing Gewe Naagaanzijig Amanda.
We have lithium. Everybody needs lithium. Transportation.
Agakana Bija Mission Bemid the Wede Gizibi Wasaganan.
Specifics of Quebec economy. So
Quebec Mishkwa Don Gawin God the way
oil and gas by the Liberal.
Shagon Jina Eke Abibona Gawin God Neo
It's $9 billion.
Midna millions Agano Quebec Madasoshe Nangadose Quebec Monte Gichi apii Awasagan Gesha Mashko Ejonia Awene Gichi Minonendam Manda Nungwa Ontario Gaoming Kiing Gichi Wabekon.
It is a strategic opportunity for Canada.
Minonendam de Aniki on Canada Agwanen Awiji Gichi Mukmana Kiing Wenji Akana Butch a Mishkatago Gichi Ashi Jonia.
If I may finish. Let me finish.
Go Kikuko.
So the opportunity includes in Europe and includes
Me dash Gichi Wabanong Kiing Estage Ashiton or Ostichekagan ni wiptan no ki kikada nigi kikado menagweak we wiptan amanpi oma and that
incredible amounts of critical minerals in our country, and the way we do that
oma ompi
make sure it's got the
wow big mompi odenan one meno shwe bakako jing
something Mr. Blanchet mentioned.
Jeto Awiji and Mr. Blanchet.
Very troubling.
Ani
the past number of years, the
Mikan
record is one where we have spent the most
Liberal Nigi Gajibi Mazanengan
on subsidizing oil and gas. These are highly
Ki Jinkare G Nijaswe Aminwa and Minwa Apide Ki Dada Agishita Abemede Apoa Amede Ashtage at the way Ashtage gan Agamak. Mr. Poliat Kita, Mr. Carney Kikita with the and then the Mikwenda Manda Eshi Jonda Adoe Mashkado Mashqueto.
On Canadian mines.
Oh, Mat Piti Abeme Apoa Odabane Canadian Canada Bemede Apoa Bemede Ni Shing de Bagan Noki da Jawanong
is to bring that production home here to Canada. For example,
Mi Aji Majidon Tiki Canadian Oneki Jinkare Aluminan Abemede Miinwaa Poa Bemede
actually help the environment while bringing
Mino the Wiji a King a Shwe Buck Skakamakwe Mino
economic destiny so we can stand up to the Americans.
Mino the Mashkata ni Gani Canada.
I want to give you a chance to speak to Mr. Singh's criticism about oil and gas.
Ni deja kita Mr. Singh industrial kidi kira mashkota dayon kwetsa ajonia gichaapchi. Natam kida. Kida Amanda.
Secondly,
Bemede Miinwaa Poa Bemede Nishing Ginowaabmdan Gichi Kikata Ayaazhidendiwin Keystone Amaji Amashkato Bemede Poa Bemede Nemo Gawin Manpia Mashkito Ande Oma Abemede Poa Bemede Nise
is carbon capture and storage.
Anigan the Ginowaabmdan Amajito
Not just today, 10 years
Gawin Eter Nungwa Anikian Anigan Need Medaso Bibon Gawin the way a Makade Gane Big Bemid Amanda Ki Kikada Oma Nungwa the way Miinwaa Kita Kikada Kikada Mashkota Ajigata
broader point is the entire absence of a climate plan.
Gawin Gawin Gawabama Akina Shwebakako Jing
Looking for new trading partners.
Ki Ski Waabmdan the way Awiji the way Gamakam Nishing Iwi o Estegation Esteton Estegation Minno Anokin Shwebagago Jing Skakamak de Squashko Minon and the Mana Canadian and Bilbamatzuin Gewe Anishinaabemowin the Canadian Oma Bewabicum at the way Bewabicum in the Oma with the Oma the Odaban. So go agoji. Ashi miinwaa ashi Gichi Ajonia amashkadu. And that's so kana ashi
for example, fertilizer, you would increase the price.
Ashi gete mezi amanda o gete gone. Amanda o bimede o gameka bimede amata which otabane.
After a lost liberal decade of rising costs,
ni sing Gichi Ginowaabmdan.
Increase the jobs that we have.
Bakkadgagan in the APTA carbon taxing gazit. Mr. Singh kikada in the Shwebakago Jing and come got Roshka. Kikada Oshki miinwaa get j'étais au mandat de me mettre kan skede agojing metegon Ayaazhidendiwin we ni bin Ginowaabmdan Mr. Carney gawing kida madge maskeda bana poison kida bimezgazibi manda ki miinwaa shikwan
climate change because we are in a very
Nin the kanen dam in the Roshko ke shoeba go jinga keninganda min ki bidabaj mo nishkada Gichi carbon ashte anje
does not exist. If Alberta wanted to exploit
maybe we see the bajamo go in the kid poa bemid manda shwaya poko come got then the when ma Kiing mino nendum anande Gewe Naagaanzijig oma mechanic menis Gichi Québécois Kiing kikada miss kikada with it miigwech midash and midash bani nisa ing mizi makade manda akazibi gawing schwimming the Ayaazhidendiwin amanda mashkamat nenewok wenen Gichi the way gamig gawi ane kiz si negadas she jonkso hashtag Jean Amazonengan Kiwa anigan nengadaso kizuk kanaboch min Amazona gajibige miigwech Fort Smith agi wednong abamid shwe sa bunke mameg was the bajamo miinwaa kida Canada Gichi Canada gave me away when a Kiing.
10 more seconds to finish, please. Let him finish his point.
But also shit the bagons.
That's the opportunity.
That's the opportunity we have.
Bangi shkude akan ishkata wase igans.
us go to our final theme, which is called
Akinag Gishita Anigi Misean.
Canadians know how to weather a storm. Canadians know how to get through a difficult time.
If, at the end of the day, we end up with the balance of power, Quebec is safer than it could be in any other scenario.
Now is not a time for weakness. Now is the time to take back control.
Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves.
Okay, leading in a crisis is a pretty broad theme that allows us to explore many different avenues.
The crisis.
We haven't balanced
Nikna, Mr. Carney, Netam Gikada. Jija Medasu, Jijongswe Medasu, Bibonokana. Nagi. There's some that be born Awenen, Medash, Ninta.
In a crisis, you can plan for the worst. Worst is that the U.S.
Ajeton, Menoye, Nishing, Majeton, Ajeton, Oma in the crisis. Gichi and Endam. Nikada Akena and Endam Quayok.
And government can play a role, but it's
miinwaa.
And so our approach,
Nigani,
the rate of spending has been growing at 9% a year, operational spending, program spending, away from transfers, away from transfers, 9% a year. We'll slow that.
Shonya es manda adaway. Giwaabmdan es Shonya. Gichi a me trillion wabak.
Leading in a time of crisis, Mr. Polyev, question.
Omanatikarisis Nigani. Gishpin Gichi Mokmana Kiing.
I believe we should continue to support our party supported
Midash Anandam Bami Ukraine Kiing.
and other armaments to back the Ukraine.
Wiji a Jamaganeshi Odaban Bash Zagan Wiji
Four massive Arctic icebreakers.
Ani the other way and new Gichi Bashke Egan Bash Zagan CFB Ikalawit where Dejan Gazit.
We need a change to rebuild our military.
We need a newen anje
The mismanagement of
na after
but we can have a change because we have
Gewe Medasu.
airmen in the world, and they will have full backing from my government if you give me the honor of becoming Prime Minister.
Gishpin Nideja Nigani o Gichi Ogama Oma Canada.
We'll get more
I go
Mr. Blanchet, given the U.S. trade war, should any talk of a referendum on Quebec independence be put on pause?
a Canada ki referendum hojikadate mazinaatesingh Quebec. Ni wa akada goyok gikada awiji awiji a Gaza with Gichi with their gaming Egypt. Gawi ninda we nigani Gichi Ogamawa o Canada.
A collaborative partner. If
awiji
in its differences
Gishpin Nestaka Quebec
and culture and French language and
Agito wa wenon we go she a mowin a jitoawen a Kiing a Quebec.
Canada will be stronger in its negotiation against
Bishkoda
This is what I am afraid.
Majito a Donald Trump. Mr. Singh Nigi Ginowaabmdan Pijanago Agikadawe.
If a province says to you, we'll take your money,
Gishpin a province Gamishin a Gajonia.
what do you do?
Ana wenen at the way Gawin Gigi Majid Jonia I wenen I know Jamo crisis Montiki Kiing Manda Canada.
seniors are waiting.
Apene amanda a crisis amanda mishke comic
Remove pain or
gawin
mobility issues.
wiji a
Healthcare workers are burnt out.
mishke ne we walk
More and more privatization,
gawi
and that is hurting our
awenen wabdana
So we've got to fight back against
mishke comic
our public money
gawin
to
gego
go to a
a
for-profit
jonia
private clinic lining the pockets
she
of the CEO or investors.
is
We need to make sure that we are investing in solutions where care gets to people, not private.
Amanda I bameton
We defend our healthcare.
Anishinaabemowin with the Kiing
Now go to open forum debate, and perhaps Mr. Polyev, you
nungwa
this might be a good
dakan
put a little more flesh on the bone,
gikada
what Canada could do for Ukraine.
Yes.
awanish daga Ukraine
We don't need to follow the Americans in everything they do.
abaji awiji organ Ukraine
With respect to Ukraine, that of course includes
agiwa den Ukraine miinwaa
armaments.
kenendem the miinwaa o jamagane shio daban and bashkar zagnagan
Market because, frankly, the
ki the European wasagan
natural gas off the Atlantic.
Gaanada
I would
Poa bumede
security grounds that we can
Ostestegegan
natural gas over
Canadian miinwaa kida natural Poa bumede
more and turn dollars for dictators back into paychecks for our people.
Mr. Carney, you want
Anje kina gamawawanon nin nikia ni John
ally and Canadians have
Canada anani buen ni gane
and supporting.
manda adaway
You know, in my first month as Prime Minister, we joined the coalition of the willing
natam
to support Ukraine as the U.S. stepped
Giizis Gichi Ogama Canada Niga Dike o United Kingdom
the new world
Ginowaabmdan say
participating in these areas and helping. It also means open trade. Mr. Polyev voted against free trade agreement with Ukraine.
Yeah, can go say to go send we must on modding. We not modding. We not mowing. We is mowing or we not mowing it to come here. Have the kui job with on
Standing with Ukraine, and we'll continue to do that. But I appreciate the opportunity to talk about
Nina, we go get in and that's what done on the go get Ukraine.
against in our country with the threat of
Peterske, it's just not seeing Montpellier, Donald Trump and the kid.
is the healthcare system. And what we have learned today,
Party not to have the quick room down.
that's a cut.
And there's just not seeing on the oxygen and
Is a plan to
oxygen one non this saying
3 years. That's going to require massive cuts to spending. We calculated that at
Sabon Mabagis is wine mage.
Rosemary Barton, when he was on
Winch tongue we not set what man done even.
cut spending, he said it would be an operation.
Neven not to skate go gabu in a chena to chishin mabas to get there. Anish came and wash it up against doing Wagish Rang Mabo.
These plans would mean massive cuts. That's the only way to achieve it.
John even a we is run mob we chishin weeks get taught as a wine mage. Anish wash it to get.
Can't do that.
Anish came and the we is so I'm on that as a chicken boy we queen got the matsage.
Healthcare spending full stop.
I wouldn't get so see now go.
Mr. Carney, today, or the one he spoke on Rosemary Barton's show on February 16th,
I did
the
not.
one that repeated
When it's what they bid me go. China wanna rock at the magen and quick.
We'll preserve all the transfers to the provinces, including the increase.
Can I go?
Preserve all the transfers to individuals, including. I won't
Go and down on and go. Can I go?
looking at
We're not much gas.
operational spend, which is about $150 billion. We will address
Ginowaabmdan again, Singapore. Get it.
real balance.
Ushme women of the support going to Tommen.
Mr. Carney, so I will speak a little bit longer. First, I will support any initiative which will
Nin will get in. Then you got with Tongo.
Euro and NATO in order to be stronger and facing
We never saying NATO. We've spoke up with Gok. Ushme.
of war than anybody else. But
Kai.
responsibilities and
Don't you got with sin. The me got to get bo.
moving yourself from the stage. So we have to step
Have the
our part. I want to go
keep it up with me.
I want to ask Mr. Carney.
Mr. Carney.
If
Gichi Naagaanzijig we to Wataming.
were to say you are not being given a majority government,
Gichi we mean going majority.
maybe more the New Democrats than you would like, and more people from the Bloc than you would like. Will you accept? Because you don't seem to be very eager to deal with people which basically are more experienced than you are.
Representative
Being alone in your little kingdom.
Peace we go touch peace we go kinton check wimba and then man
To you all guys, that 1 week after the election, 1 week after the election, we all meet.
Gonna make it shook. Score.
Because this is what
Score game up king.
they are from Alberta or Quebec or wherever. This is what
To be the going to ball going on duck.
Is that something you could get behind?
Me going duck.
Meeting with everyone. You're welcome to come, Steve.
Up to kitchen and them kitchen and them can we with quest cook.
that's not very respectful. That's not very respectful.
I'm coming.
I woman not in Messi Montecadoy.
Okay, I will. I come to. Yeah, okay, I'll come to. Look, in a crisis, yes, you need it. And you need
Chispin who is not go up the cook kuyonanek
So what I did
Oshme
was to
on Motivicic. We the bottom of the win last Manda.
and move forward.
Condegano can a national big Naagaanzijig with quest going.
Going to lead out of this.
When is one you gonna go with?
Thank you. Whoever's going to lead out of this is
When is one you gonna go with?
all the provinces. Work with labor.
Can go up taking the witch and a key man can go be
Names to bring them forward in a united.
national big can go on be
Make this last point.
opening and ching Mano because smoking.
Credit to those people at home.
Go think she go cause of way book we go.
And it's our responsibility to meet
Can go to mom we got boy me. Es come go to school got boy me mom moving. Mom P Canada.
Parliament, where there are other leaders. I don't know if he called you or Mr. Poilev. I don't know if he called you, but before
Mom P
you have not spoken.
Chinago.
Even if I.
Oh, watch it in chicken or see.
But you say I speak to provinces leaders. You're not elected.
Carney week.
Parliament.
Can go get on Akram, not gonna go check the ticket. Need you go watch it in chicken or see.
I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump in here because I'm noticing what the clock is saying. And you brought up Gaza earlier, and I think our audience would be interested in hearing your views on the other major international crisis facing the
I just
world
want to
right
get,
now.
before we get that, just
Oshmego na watch that up sin na Namebine-giizis to subsan mot. Oshmego is snugok.
to Canadians who believe in
Mon pies is nog sing man da oxygen is a migame.
worried about it, wish Mr. Carney to believe the one who
When the geno we catch snug siok.
the shows and said he would cut.
We go chin gas up chen mok men jet tam wat ken we go we mi ka gas up mat sejek yak sejek. Up to go san ges me mon pi.
For it here, what role
Non dash go nanas bogas katana.
major international crisis in this world? In the middle
Anish ke Canada.
Pierre Paulin, would you start us?
Anish Canada ges to get po. O the we ges go boing bagine.
And more importantly, the terror sponsors in Tehran who initiated the attack.
Osto Avtek ko gaimam datin chikabo toing go delam and come work chigaming. The ran and is chigat. Kondako apchigo sektajik kena.
Yes,
Kena nam pigit comics chuim nashiang.
from the oppression of Hamas dictators and
Minosna wim nagabuing. Wim nashiang.
But I also want to say, we need to get back to the
Wim nashiat be motsajik. Avtek
they leave foreign
mompi eskabuing.
the rampaging riots
Kayo the kubizo sina. Kasho snagsig. Benjabai mompi Canada betgoshnik.
after
Apchishigo even a com danam pinam. Eshes nagok.
weak borders of dividing people into groups, of saying one thing to one group,
Kid yot be matsajik. Marcian anik be matsajik Gaanada Liberal and the kid. Avdik kui the one time got there.
and that when we come here,
We mom we sing me avdik.
conflicts behind and we put
Squang with the Kabinagan, Kegum Pibi, Keo, the Chaman, Ishes Nogzig.
So that's a part of being in our country to have that freedom. Your treatment of Palestinians has been
Mumpy protection, Abdeco, when the quick and Mananeke, or the Benchabache, Comic Chesnogazel, Eshinagachagasot.
is now clearly become a genocide.
Abdeco quick nom done, Abdeco the quick nom done and come up with gas, so Eshinagasoto. Abde Queen Akitona. Abde Quick in the Kimana Nekotige, Chigaming the Kayachic. Nyapna, which you nom ding, win nom ding, Eshik, Bemotzing, Abish Mando one Nesham Gokmando.
Living side by side
Outtake when I go to him non gondot. Israel, Pakistan.
Iranian sponsors and we have to be
Iranian Gitabatan Maba.
And do everything with our international partners to check it.
How they can how they quick measure washing, we not making Jishwan or the we not such a take of the again equipped school up and we not mowing on the way we should gain.
Very little minority of
Mopig in up to go Messnagum up to go Bungigo. It's just Nagok.
Canada says that somebody may invite people to be violent.
Mom Peter's cake, knocking again. But all now, quick man on it on the Chui Bishamana check out again or Chui beat out on P.
And we say it is a crime to invite people to violence and killing other people.
Kaimamda, to be in the going of a Mumpi.
In Canada, in Quebec,
It's just Nagok.
the Criminal Code of Canada, and we are saying
Condemn Abdeco, condemn Chito to get.
what we do before
We can home check us out.
swear to change what they do.
We to progress the dot gain or Gashiki Bats out. Kaimamda from the top of the Mingo Kilamanda. Up to Madas Nagat Mopini Gansing. Mopino Banagachagas check, which up convent of other.
Called the Century Initiative, which seeks to bring our population up to 100 million people. They have a lot
Conduct
of overcrowding in our community.
knocking again
Housing shortages, job
at Temgok. Pinaganang on the which up college Bachic. We just interest seeing Mandanon that saying we go on Bematsigo or some even a Pinagan on a peak, which up convent of Bachic.
which brought this policy
I go again the Namasik convent of Bachic, Mavgandak Liberal, Margi Oakmanda, and Akanega.
normal levels of immigration
How they keeps coming down on the
system and ensure
men on Nick on the women that up lying.
arrive in numbers
Panaganang Mumpi Canada.
employ and care for.
To dip sake sound lucky when Mino wanted out by Matsajuk. We got to wash in the sing.
Those are our 5 themes, but we are not done yet.
Migo Gichi dying Manda.
The next section of our debate tonight, what we're calling the leader's choice, something a little bit different. Each of you
Ba Mishmanomada, one Mikata. We be getting a gaso code. I got to went to go, we got out. There's a man and dot.
will last for 3 minutes. So, Mr. Singh,
So the Boganstoyana,
who do you want to ask your question?
with the Batamotego.
Mr. Carney, as chair of Bristol Investments, your company is
Miss Cherney.
tax dodgers in Canada. As chair, you approved decisions
Nibinago.
investments bought up affordable homes, kicked
Nibinagon to quit all with talk.
as prime minister.
Contegation Marchi, so Jebinachin, Bematsin, and Dota. Migo Shinchaka with to dog. Minos on the up to go Sonia Kitchik. Migon the Ejaka with Tochik.
That's very much a conservative plan. But my concern is that doesn't sound like what.
Nintaskeni.
So my question
Nintaskeni Yomdama, I'm on the Matsikuya. When I sent to go with Tot. You get to go.
for that question, Mr. Singh.
Chimigo, which mean.
On the side of Canadians. I'm in this for Canadians.
Canadians in the job with talk.
I have a track record of public service for this country.
And even again, won't give an key. We're not more on the Canadian.
Earlier, which is haven't resulted in crisis. We're in Quebec.
We can't go kill Nasidon.
If you ask anyone in government, in Quebec in 2008, they'll know that I resolved the biggest crisis.
Mon pingin nas ton go 2008 Quebec.
This is fairness. It's with this is for these two. Yes, I have.
Get to go.
I'm proud of that.
Give it, even the one given and give. Menos when and give it to them. Quaking Gichi. Even Gila Castle, even the go up from the Magego.
You served to benefit those at the very top. You jacked up the price.
Miss what the gig, you know, when they got to check what up to go. Yes, on your kitchen, me on the Chabut, it's about to check. It didn't go up on the
People, your priorities, big business, big billionaires.
So the
okay, check on your me, it's about to check.
So we've gone directly to workers using all of our proceeds from the tariffs, committing all of them for.
Can I go to Sonia Kito Nanika?
Unlike others who plan to use them to cut taxes.
Me Mandan Kasyang.
The amount of EI is not high enough. You have to accept that. Right now,
there will be additional programs. I am fully.
Even the one go to get me.
Certainly, if I'm in the next government.
Mando, I went to call in Nigan Gabuga. Cabin got sit on and even a go on Mikati.
May I make a core point here, if I may?
Kegono Gondake Kitnam. Chishan Quen Modogon that Kijik. Memdi on the Eshnikichuk. Up to Tem Gutcher. Tem Gutcher, even on the Eshnikichuk. The Kinomagas or Page wash in the kyard. When to your Motnagino, washing Matsur.
Democrats aren't there to force liberals to make sure they remember about people they will forget.
Gentlemen, that is time. Thank you for that. You have the next question.
Bamigo Gichak same time. Wait them rush. I go now when niggas to sit quite a man Mandagashi which me going. Can't get go to Boston. Go can not sit on Chew any go. 2008 got a book. That's some da sock, some da sock, some da sock, and I'm Gichi got this Tabanak. We should go so Tabanak.
To Lumberwood throughout the whole of Canada. I don't
want to show so cook.
Crisis since you did not recoup the money from the car industry. Then
Kayan yap kidepen the scene go kick to see now. We got any man. We don't have got my Tabanak.
But we now know that 50% of the investments of
up to show the gosh got to it.
It's not so green. You
Monday gosh, wine mugin, win not sit in guys.
You want to support
Menogaton job with Tan Madame Medega boys are negative on negotiation is an issue snook.
But not in Canada. You want to support nuclear power, smaller
even away go, which up California got a ton. Washington is no way go.
You have hidden the money of Brookfield in Bermuda and Cayman Island. $30 billions of dollars.
Even nothing.
You are having your tax.
Even a keenest to Narsonia, go to the shot to in Mondasonia.
Elders in Canada and Quebec instead of paying.
Peter Saint Kitagechik.
Will you, before the election, reveal all the details of your assets as Mr.
Chibo Kimaking this? Tagita Batano Kennego, wash it again, Menos, Nick Sonia, what doing go check.
Well, the first thing is,
Tom Shoe getting a kid.
Say a word about this. You know, this is a Canadian.
Tom got about Tanmanda.
The largest infrastructure investment developer in the world. It is.
Me go on the margin even a
largest developer
chip charge
in the world. And who benefits from that?
Contesh to check one in Nigan check Mondesh.
That is teachers, firefighters.
Economic check. Yatege check. And I won't even a Chicago check. Misha on the this oak. Panego and give a check.
I have left that. I have followed all the
give it a Gatano there. Gina don't chico and knock again and check out.
We all and working for the people.
when it's Stebenman, the button.
We're moving on to Mr. Polyev now. He has his opportunity to ask the question of whomever he'd like here. And that will
No, we to Mr. Polyev.
But if I could
Mr. Conner.
by setting the stage,
Schengen Jamasta.
after a lost decade of rising costs of crime and a falling economy,
Wim next hour Liberal Gabison Marshi at Nivena Kenneo Casa Shekuchning. Kiabin again could not come on a conduct.
you can afford food and homes change so that you can be safe.
Marske Constona with excreting now. With excreting none medium. We want stowing Kenagego. Awesome Nasiang.
2020, it was reported you began
Me got the mob Mr. Carney 2020. Justin Trudeau Key Nona.
on June 3rd, 2021.
June 3rd, 2020. Kick it.
Economic progress.
Monte Notchego Venus Pongdek. Kick it.
Trudeau's, your,
We now go Usman Skoga
which led to the worst inflation crisis in a generation.
Usmedos Kanasikum Bongdekego, what don't come as come causes no time.
That seniors
Pematsuchek no zio, how watch the Skitosina, medium we is not out with some art again out of no Jimon. Minoge, we woman, we got the Skitosina, we is not out yab.
you advised Justin Trudeau to take. Will you
Kindas Motoki, Key Namaba, Justin Trudeau, we should get Manda.
suffer as a result?
Nungodas, win more on the Kanagachik. Kanjatagi should get soon.
I said earlier, but
Staha, Vangi go get him in a Gabengoding.
Justin Trudeau isn't here.
Giken dan we man and motor, Justin Trudeau. Kasima Pia, Sio de Batchmat.
I did not provide any of that.
Kain Ningi can't know Sio Ekatai.
Liberal Party of lying about your role? Because it says today you can go to the Liberal Party website.
Giginesh cook at the kitna.
The way you judge.
Kin Gigi is a Bobbish cushion.
What they do when they have this
Asia Kazot one dog.
central bank government. And in both cases, if I may, in both cases when I was responsible for inflation was less than 2%. I'll add that when I was here responsible for the Bank of Canada, inflation was less than 2%. Our dollar was at parity. That is the kind of success that I can deliver for this country coming out of this crisis. And what is at stake here? What is at stake?
When it's on P, what's the Gabwim Gok?
A generation. Because the policies that you implement and those of the MPs that are still in your ministry.
To the
fellow Canadians,
crisis which
the last 10 years has been about the Liberals. The next 10 years should be about you.
And that's time.
Polyev Carney Gaki Kitok.
The next question is yours.
Well, I'm going to ask myself a question. Actually, I'm going to ask a question which has been troubling me. And it's troubling me because...
I get who go which in them work. When the Migoskat and them.
Who is it to? I'm going to ask the question, Mr.
Me work the Kimina and Apii. Kind quick, kind quick, the Mossemen.
The threat from Iran.
Mizio the guy, Agama King.
Aggression in Ukraine.
Kama,
The threat from China.
Kamigatiot. Miziego.
United States, which is fundamentally changing.
Begota Shindan. Chibukumana King. Bakan Gewe Naagaanzijig go. Kina Winter Shuma.
Mr. Blanchet, Mr. Singh, myself, we have our top secret security clearance. We have our top secret within 3 weeks. It wasn't hard, but I felt it was important that I had it so I could be in a position to be informed about that dangerous world and take decisions that. And Mr. Polyev, it is... security clearance, and you've refused.
First of all, I have got my security clearance when I was a minister. I got top secret clearance at the time, so there's no problem getting that.
Security
Clearance briefings that I would be gagged. under the security law. And I Canada has experienced Chinese interference by Beijing in two and that was not something I would be allowed to do. Even Thomas Mulcair, the former leader of the NDP, said that when
Thomas Mulcair
accepted that your government and Mr. Trudeau's government was attempting to impose on me. And it's good that I made that decision. Your candidate, sir, actually said that to China under a bounty threatening and you
China
to do with the fact that you went to China not long ago to get a $250 million loan for your company.
And
I was able to because I refused the gag order.
Well, there's a couple of interesting things. I think people at home have seen a robust debate here, and it's been a robust campaign, and it has not stopped Mr. Blanchet or Mr. Singh at times during his campaign by making. I will observe
for some quick hit Q&As for each of you right now. Short questions, 45 seconds please on the answers, and we're going to go left to right as I look at you right now. You get the first question. To the best of my knowledge, you have not offered a hard timeline, as the other parties have, to meet Canada's NATO commitment of 2% spending on defense. When would you hit that target?
My aim will be to 2030. That said, when we renegotiate
2030.
I know it's
free trade
rebuild our military in Canada. To have heavy icebreakers in the north, Poseidon aircraft, fighter jets,
Rangers,
rebuild the warrior spirit that characterized our military. We will stand behind our veterans.
Thank you, Mr. Poilievre. Mr. Carney, your question. You have cut both the consumer carbon tax and the capital gains tax increase that you inherited from your predecessor. Is that an admission that the Liberals made life less affordable for Canadians?
I think let me give you the rationale behind both. For Canadians. Canadians received rebates on the whole.
Canadians
relatively modest contribution to overall climate goals. I got rid of it. First act made Canadians whole. Secondly, but with that's why I brought it back.
And that's time. Thank you. Mr. Singh, would you change the existing cap on immigration?
I've said that the level of immigration, first of all, we need immigration. It's fundamentally important to our country. And we speak to any small business owner.
Mr. Singh, the Bajadan, Pidek with Pakar Kangiot, Magapi Shawat, China, Dawat, Abeg,
meets our needs. So I would ensure that we've got an expert panel that makes that determination based on our
economic.
Liberals and Conservatives resulted in the fact that we have a shortage in housing. That's something that we've got to. Canadians and make sure that we've got the right immigration levels.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. That's time. Mr.
Canadians
is now the only province with a carbon tax. Do you think that's fair?
It's not entirely true. It's not a tax. What Quebec has is a system by which we invite
Blanchett the Shidan
big emission companies, I don't know what you
carbon tax
then they have to pay. It goes into a fund which is invested then in reducing emissions. Our partner is California, which makes this a huge deal about reducing and by the way, Europe would impose tariffs on Canadian oil if it ever got there. We're quite proud of that. And we have to be responsible because this is much less expensive.
We're going to do left to right again, and 30 seconds this time. Monsieur Poilievre, you've previously promised to defund the CBC as one of your very first acts as Prime Minister. Is that still the plan?
Yes, CBC will continue to operate as a self-funded Canadian.
Mr. Poilievre, CBC.
Advertising, licensing, and countless other things that will ensure Canadians who still want to listen and view its content will be able to do so. And at the same time, will allow so that everybody has their voice heard.
Some of Canada's legal tax avoidance loopholes that companies that you have worked for have used.
Look, I think that what we need to do
tax
and do that on the basis of the right principles. We've got to have and competitiveness. So we need a tax system including part of minimum corporate tax through the OECD.
And that is time. Mr. Singh, the question for you is, if you hold the balance of power after this election is over, what would your price be to support another party?
We've laid out our priorities. We want to make sure
Mr. Singh,
and we would close tax loopholes and offshore tax havens, even though
Mr. Singh, quick
people who are job creators are the hardworking men and women that can
Hold the balance of power in the next minority parliament. If it is that, what would be the price of your support?
Respect for Quebec. That's quite easy. I don't want to go vision or a multiculturalist vision on Quebec, which is different in terms of language and values and secular. So I want to be a part of good for Quebec. It only has to be good for Quebec.
One last question for each of you. We'll go right to left this time as I look at you. Bit of an offbeat question. Mr. Blanchet, what is your biggest regret during this campaign?
Mr. Blanchet, ako na mention na yan wake up nung guys jebizek wake me kada we ba chigi masa kamegasiang chujetuang Quebec shigo Canada chiwi chitiot and beg Mr. Trump
To let go alone without being surveyed or controlled or supervised by a Quebec voice.
Thank you, Mr. Blanchet. Same question, Mr. Singh. Your biggest regret of this campaign?
not being able to meet as many people as I would love to.
Mr. Singh, the mission I ask ni bobby nagishkok, kinagishkok.
My job is still to meet people and to hear their stories and then to take their stories.
Me and the Nokin, Chibis the Hawk, Awiak, Kishpinat walks Katonji, Chinigan, Gabawian, Gabis the Hawk, Pakanaya, Aposhke, where Chiminaya, and beg Teddy Bamang walk hagan on the Jibijaya.
Biggest regret of the campaign?
To be honest, it's the same answer. This is an astonishing country. It is an amazing.
Beginning naked one, Keget, Apache, Mamakata, and Tagot, Wegitakinan.
Of being with Canadians, hearing their stories, their challenges, drawing strength.
Kichina dagat ye bisit abang ako din ako nen Gewe no when she because katen namuat.
But the regret is that it is also a big country and it is a short period of time.
Kaya get mitchabang katwe Canada guys ni kate magak.
I actually agree with these two gentlemen.
Me Gewe na we
They're really big.
Gewe me jite boeta ganyan nish kagi higito netasha.
And hear their stories, learn their struggles.
Chibisin damuat ani nekituat. Ayag.
They would put their faith in me or in any of us. But we've been in such a rush because we have to get up.
Kichina dagat ye awye chite boeta bang chit boegani boyang ma.
I haven't forgotten about you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Polyev. It is time now for closing statements, and prior to the debate, you drew lots as to which order we would go in. And Mr. Singh, you get the first word on a closing statement.
Certainly, thank you. Because you voted for New Democrats, we were able to build
Mr. Singh,
universal health.
New Democrats kagi should be the
Because you voted for New Democrats, we were able to fund
Kiwichi
dental care, pharmacare.
Tabska mashkin yok Ginowaabmdan ngoy ka accident.
You have the power with your vote to send more New Democrats to Ottawa to continue that fight. To make sure that
Kita shiga ba wem
cuts the things that hold dear.
chibia BDG oik me ngoek NDP
More affordable,
Democrats
affordable to buy your groceries and to get a home.
Ginowaabmdan je kita di bang wisinin ang bayang with jayang.
Things that make Canada
Tapos nin yenga
clear. The things that make us
me yega kyonje no kataman.
Mr. Carter.
We are facing the biggest crisis of our lifetimes. Donald Trump
Mr. Carney kada apatid mongom
changed the world economy, the trading system.
Kudashiman Donald Trump anin ke yebi zengo ma yespegego isemarak.
They want to resource it.
Me ani she mukumana Kiing untawenta no kita kinan. Me da she kinachi ai mamutiyang
Over the years
she gaganon get Mr. Trump
with counter-terror.
ke get
Protect our workers, those businesses, and we will build
kiganaga chana ne kan goe kotano kik
I'm asking for
guting Canada da niga ta sung si yok bino.
Thank you, Mr. Carney. Monsieur Blanchet.
For 260 years and a little bit more,
Mr. Blanchet ketan
devenus des Canadiens, devenus des Canadiens français, devenus des Québécois, you have tried to have them become Canadians like all Canadians. But to no avail, we are.
Bedashi kedoek
So let's be
metogishik
let's have
ke ino jinabata biatima
and for Quebecers
ambe Quebecers ye chiga higidawat
equals.
onen jinigani to ambe quick chiga runtiang ye moden ke gana bit.
Could someone start where I began and get to this stage? I was born to be
People of ye kita
adopted by
Canada to bang Gichi den to mayan Gichi di ma ko goek kinama hek
work hard.
ikoyok abin unchaga awat ambe kapchini ba eni ko kano kiwat.
Many of you worried about paying your bills, feeding your family.
Ni po kito usami inom uma uchadimenta me karin chi kitoek
I'm here to say
chi siniek kita binon chi ke chinawek chiminayawat
that hard work
ambe ke yega ya shata maget
on a safe street under a proud flag.
ya shata maget ye koik chip matis yang meta shingi ke we no mi ko ka charini gani wa chisungisiat.
Before we go, number one of you celebrated your 60th birthday yesterday on this stage. Yves-François Blanchet, bon anniversaire.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, te beskam na kona isa bichina.
Didn't have to change the time of this debate because the Leafs already clinched the Atlantic Division title, and therefore we didn't need to move the debate to accommodate a hockey game. I'm getting back at my colleague who was in this position last night, and okay, go Habs go, that's fine. With that, we're done. Thank you, leaders, for being here tonight. We are just 11 days from Election Day, April 28th, but there are many ways that you can cast your ballot starting tomorrow at advance polls. If you intend to vote by mail, that deadline is April 22nd. Make sure to check your voter card for details or contact Elections Canada. This is your democratic right, and we hope you use it. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. I'm Steve Paikin. Good night from Montreal.
Thank you. Enjoy that.
What did you say?